sticking his invitation into his breast pocket. He moved into the main hall and briefly surveyed the exhibits. The walls were hung with paintings in clear blocks, each with a placard stating the artist's name. Between each block was a table of sculptures or pottery, also displaying a placard. The nearest wall was dedicated to an Oxfordshire artist, mostly rural scenes in oils, riverbanks, and woodlands. Just one depiction of the obligatory dreaming spires. But the one that caught his eye was of the towers of Didcot Power Station. This had been a part of the landscape of his youth. Dorchester was just down the road from Didcot, although a world away in terms of wealth and status. Gary had always rather liked the power station, especially at night when the towers were underlit and looked somehow both beautiful and sinister, like a scene from a dystopian future. They had blown up 3 of the towers a year ago. He had watched it on the news and nearly wept for the loss. The rest was scheduled for demolition in the next couple of years. They should have been preserved as part of our industrial heritage. He took out his camera and took a series of shots. Another painting was of Whittenham clumps. Apart from the power station, the only break in the flat landscape for miles around. 2 small hills, one of which boasted of an Iron Age fort. He'd walked up there once to have a look around, but there was nothing much to see. He liked the name, though. Whittenham clumps. It sounded like a statement to which the reply should be, "Does it?" The pictures were pleasant, but not particularly inspiring, except for the power station, which would soon be gone forever, part of his childhood lost. He was 23 years old, and already he was seeing his childhood snatched away from him. The table in between painting exhibits was full of pottery heads, with holes in the top, which he found vaguely disturbing. It was only when he consulted the catalog that he discovered they were plant pots. The accompanying photos showed some of the pots sprouting green, leafy hair. If anything, that was even more disturbing. He dutifully took a couple of photos and moved on to the next wall, which was adorned with large, very bright abstracts. Gary had never really gotten his head round abstracts. He couldn't quite believe they meant anything. He stared for a while, trying to see what it was the artist intended you to see. The only one that made any sense at all was entitled Chaos. He photographed a couple, without much hope that he could say anything interesting about them at all. Table number 2 was full of strange little stick figures in unlikely poses. Gary was beginning to wonder whether the youth of today had any imagination or, indeed, talent at all. Perhaps he was just too stupid to understand. Then he turned the corner and stopped dead in his tracks. This exhibition took up the whole of the wall. He was aware of a collection of smaller pictures at the sides, but the wall was dominated by one huge abstract picture. At least he thought it was abstract, but he wasn't sure. It seemed to have something. There was a message there if only he could grasp it. A voice behind him said, "You're standing too close. Move back a bit." He obediently took a step back. A bit more. One more step, and then suddenly everything fell into place.